Hey friends, I'm back with another science curriculum flip through for you, and this one is a brand new program. It's Earth and Environment Level 2 from Pandia Press. They've had Level 1 for a while, but Level 2 just came out at the beginning of 2025. It is for grades 6 through 10, so it's going to be a really strong middle school program, or I don't want to say light as in easy, but a lighter overall for early high school. If you are interested in making this a stronger program than what it already is, I have some ideas for you, and I will share those later in the video. With Pandia Press, Max has his opinions. There are textbooks, a workbook for your students, and they do need both of those. And there's a teacher's guide. And in this case, a teacher's guide really is important with their programs. We have used a few of them now, and I definitely benefited from having the teacher guide. This program is 23 weeks long, and I know that seems odd. Why 23 weeks? Well, it is meant to be paired with their astronomy program, which is a 12-week program. I do have a flip through of their astronomy, so I will leave that down in the down bar. However, you can definitely make this into a full year by yourself if that's what you want. And again, we'll talk about that here in a bit. So we are going to start with a table of contents, and then I will show you inside the student textbook, the student workbook, as well as the teacher's guide. Since this program just came out, we have not yet used it. Obviously, it's only been out a few weeks. So in order to kind of know how strong it is, I did compare their table of contents with the table of contents of several other Earth textbooks, as well as looked at scope and sequences of different state standards, and it all looks pretty good. It is very comparable to the table of contents in some of the great courses that we have used as well. Starts off with the different parts of the Earth. So the geosphere, hydrosphere, atmosphere, biosphere, and scientific method. Then they go into each of those. So for geosphere is Unit 2. It's through Chapter 7. Fossil fuels, dating, relative dating. Unit 3 is Earth shaping forces. So weather, erosion, earthquakes, volcanoes, and we're going to take a look into the volcano unit here in a minute. And then Unit 4 is the hydrosphere. So we have the hydrological cycle, freshwater, currents, the ocean chemistry. And then we have the atmosphere. So atmosphere, weather, storms, changing climate, air pollution. Now, before we get into the student text and workbook, I want to show you through the teacher's guide so that I can talk to you about the format of the program before we see it in here, because the teacher's guide, like I said, is very good. I did do the try before you buy sample first because I wanted to make sure that it was something that I thought we would actually use before I bought it. And I think we will, and I'll talk to you about that here shortly. But if you're wondering what that is a sample. They have a very generous sample for each of their curriculum, and they do it for like the student text and the student workbook, teacher's guide. So definitely download those if you are considering. So in the teacher's guide, they start out introducing the course and why they choose what they choose as far as helping kids to understand the scientific method and how they pair up the text with the labs, that sort of thing. Then they give you the structure of it. As I said, it's a 23-week-long program, which means in their case that it is also 23 chapters, with each chapter being about a week's worth of material. In our experience with the other curriculum, Level 2, there's a little bit of variability. Some chapters will go quicker and some will go longer for us, but about a week is a good estimate, and what the schedules they give you are for. The REAL in their name stands for Read, Explore, Absorb, and Learn. And you'll see that here. So in each chapter, your student will read the lesson in the textbook, explore through labs and activities. Home Science Tools has lab kits for the rest of their curriculum. They do not have it for this one yet, but I'm going to guess that they will. It's just that it's a brand new program. They need time to get that done. But I will show you the supply list. Absorb through their Famous Science series. And in the Famous Science series, each week for each chapter, your student will have some kind of an area to research. So it'll be like a famous scientist or a famous science, like in the astronomy, it was like some of the different vehicles, that sort of thing. And then learn is show what you know. And that is where they, through short answer and multiple choice, etc., is the wrap up of what they've learned. This lays out what you'll find in the teacher guide. One thing that I really like is that they have a math section. So if there is going to be math coming up, they will show you what it is, tell you, explain it to you, which I think is super helpful. And one of those things that they know their customers. Like, that is an area that is a concern for a lot of homeschool parents. And so it's very thoughtful that they include it. Something else that they include are some extra resources. So additional videos and book ideas, etc. If you want to expand on what you're learning, they give you that information. They also give you some suggested ways to set up your grading, if that is something that you want assistance with. Now, there are two different ways that their supply list comes. This one's in alphabetical order, so they give you everything, all the details. They also break it down by chapter. This is something that bothers me with, every science curriculum I think I've ever looked at. I like that they include this by chapter, but I find this kind of a list really hard to see. And I like that they have this one, which is very easy to read and go through and mark what you need, but they don't tell you what weeks you're going to need them. So, for example, there are 3 different kinds of containers that you need. Well, if I'm not using them on the same week, I might be able to use the same container for all of them. Or there's 4 small clear cups, but then you also need 2 glass jars. Well, if I'm using those in the same week, then I probably can't use them in the same activity or for the same item for both of them. But if I am using them on 2 different weeks, then the small glass jars I use might also be able to be for the small clear cups. I really wish that I had a combination of like these 2 merged together, and so this would have the weeks on them as well. But that's my preference. I know everybody has their own different preferences on how they like their supply lists, but I do like it's clearly laid out. They give you how many items you need, what sizes, etc. Then there's a section on exams, when they are, how to administer them, how to grade them, etc. So, like I said, their teacher guide, as you can see, is very helpful. It's very thorough, and it's one that's actually worth buying. I don't feel that way about a lot of teacher guides. Okay, so now here is chapter 11, and I have chapter 11 printed for both the textbook and the workbook, so later I will show you how they all line up. There are 3 suggested schedules. So if you're going to do science 2 days a week, 3 days a week, or 5 days a week, they give you an idea of what to do. When we did biology last year, we roughly followed their 5-day a week, but we did make some adjustments based on what we found worked best for our schedule. Still, I really like that there are 3 different ways that they suggest. Chapter starts off with their learning goals, extra resources, and their website has one central place where you can find all their links, so you can just save this one link and then use that for all of their different curriculum. Then for the reading section, they give you the information as a little summary. The math text review is a really good way to, one, if you want to have your student learn to take outline notes, this is a good rough estimate for them. It's also a good way to have some discussion with your students about what they're learning. They give you information about the lab, hypothesis, what data should look like, etc. Then their famous science series with the answers, and then the show what you know with the answers. Now, chapter 11 is what I printed out, and this was one of the longer chapters. It's about 10 pages. Most of the chapters are somewhere in the 5 to 6 pages in length, fairly comparable to most textbooks at this level. They have, as you can see, pictures on every page. It's well laid out. A good amount of white space, but not too much on the pages either. Their images line up well with the sections. I like that they include things like tables, and then this little outset. I don't remember so much color in the biology textbook that we did last year. I have a video on it as well. I don't know if it was or if this is a newer version. Since it's newer, more updated, includes more color, I'm not sure. I forgot to set this one to print double-sided. Now, this one is also a try before you buy sample because, again, I wanted to be able to look at the student textbook and get a sense of it, of whether it would be a good fit for us before I bought everything. So the first activity is called Getting Your Feet Wet. It's just talking about the scientific method, some overview of the program. Each chapter also almost everyone, according to the teacher guide, has a geological timeline activity, which I think is really helpful because it's so hard sometimes, at least for me, to put together the timeline of everything and to keep it in mind as I'm learning new things. So I really like that they are including this. One of Matthew's complaints last year was that the paragraphs are just long enough that it took practice for him to not miss any details in here. And I just taught him to use a highlighter or a pen so that he could mark things that are important as he's reading them. It doesn't look like that long, but it was easy for him to miss details in the beginning. And then I mentioned about the famous science series. So this one is about the history of the scientific method. The information they need from here is not in the textbook. This is an activity that is specifically to help them learn to research and reliably research, evaluate sources, etc. If you are running short on a week and need to cut something, this is what I would cut first. Because while it adds to the program, skipping it isn't going to take away from the program. And then here's the one for the lava chapter. So they give you the geological timeline activity for this. This one also has a lab. Chapter 1 was just the activity. So they give you all the information you need to read before you start the activity. And again, sometimes Matthew would try to skip this. Having kids transition to a textbook, especially something like this where they're able to do this pretty independently, one of those skills that they need to learn is how to take their time using a textbook. And so, again, learning to take the time to read all of this was a skill that we had to develop. Now, materials list, procedure. I like that they include how long things are supposed to take, each part. I don't remember that in the other versions, and I would have to go back and look and see if it was in there. I really like that. And then their lab sheet for it, put in their hypothesis, good space for putting in their data, and then the rest of it. Now, the famous science series in this one was about Mount Tambora. I don't even know where it was located. Oh, that's the first question. Where is Mount Tambora? So the questions will start out with things pretty basic. When, where, the basic details. Maybe get into a longer part for them to write more of a paragraph. And then another show what you know, multiple choice, short answer. There is a good variety of type of questions that will be in the show what you know, and I really like that. We have not done a lot of textbook, workbook type things in the younger years, so this was a good practice for Matthew. And I keep saying Matthew because Ben has not used them. This has just been Matthew that's used Real Science Odyssey so far. So I wanted to show you how the teacher guide and the student workbook line up for you. If you're doing science 2 days a week, for example, their schedule suggests that the lesson, so you read the lesson book, then do the famous science series activity, and the show what you know on day 1. Then on day 2, complete the text review with your student. Do the activity, so like the geological timeline activity, and the lab. Then as far as the formats go, as you can see, like the questions, this is the teacher's guide, same format, same with the multiple choice. It's just like what they have in the student text. Sometimes it's nice in teacher guides when they just give you the answer, but I like when they give you the questions as well, because it's a really good way to do review. If you don't want to use the review that they had or different questions, at another time, sometimes we'll go, after a few chapters, I'll go back and ask some of these questions, etc. Now, as I said, we have not used this yet. And what I was trying to decide about using it was whether Matthew might want to use it next year. He'll be doing chemistry, but maybe as a second science, or if Ben wants to use it. He's already done a geology unit in Build Your Library 9. So I don't know, and he did, at the same time, he also did a big meteorology unit, so I don't know how much of it would be new for him. While I talk, I'm just going to flip through a little more, give you a little more time to look. But I feel like this is more structured than what we did. And so we may end up having him do it. Now, he will be a senior next year. So obviously, if this is just a grade 6 to 10, it's not going to be a high-level curriculum for him. There are some great courses that he's done before and a few that he's not done but look good. I will leave all the titles down below, as well as some book titles that he has done through Build Your Library 9 that would be really good supplements to it. If you want to build this up to a year-long curriculum, with those extra weeks, you could dig into specific areas in here. You could go into the geology of your area. One of the courses that Ben really liked was Wonders of the National Park, and so it was the geology and geography of the U.S. national park systems, and I think that would be a great add-on if you are trying to spread this out into a full year-long curriculum. Now, since Ben's already had a geology unit, if we use this next year for him, instead of doing it in 23 weeks, I will probably have him speed it up and do it in a 1-semester course. I may also have the two of them do it next year as a 1-semester course together. Since Ben's a senior, it will be our last year to be able to do anything together. So this might be something that would be good that way. So that is Real Science Odyssey, Earth and Environment Level 2. If you have any questions, be sure to leave them down below and I will do my best to answer them or to find the answer for you. Now, if you want to check out their biology and their astronomy, those videos are on your screen. I'll see you over there.